First of all, what are you looking for out of these, out of Honda? What are you looking at out of the car makers, generally speaking?
Well, two of the biggest car makers, Honda and Toyota, both are expected to lose heavily in the first quarter. Probably, in case of Honda, in terms of OP, maybe 50 billion for Toyota. I am surprised if the company announces more than 100 billion losses for the first time in 3-4 years.
Right, what are going to be the key factors here? I mean, what are we looking for? We're looking at, I guess, how the supply chain is holding up, I suppose.
Obviously, we are talking about two big problems here. One is the impact out of the earthquake, and at the same time, yen has been very, very strong, a lot stronger than originally expected. So the combination of those two seems to be killing the earnings, at least in the first quarter, even though many of the companies are expecting kind of V-shaped recovery from the second quarter.
Right, well, you mentioned the strength of the yen. You know, we have levels below 80 yen against its US counterpart. Now, does this make these companies think about shifting even more production overseas? And should they be doing so?
Well, I think so. Obviously, it really depends how the yen going to behave, especially against the US dollars for the next 9 months. But at least compared to the original expectation of somewhere between 80 and 85 yen against US dollars, actually here was a lot stronger in the first quarter, and which obviously is going to be a good incentive for those companies to continue to shift their production from Japan to overseas.
Right. Well, of course, there are other problems that you alluded to here as well. And it's, you know, you can have these factories up and running, but you may not have the power there to actually build vehicles. How much of an impact are the power shortages having?
Well, power shortage, at least up to now, doesn't really seem to be the critical point, even though obviously it can continue to pose a big problem for medium to long term. If all those nuclear plants or all those nuclear plants in Japan suspends to operate sometime next year, that's going to really show some big problems for those Japanese car makers, and which might be another incentive to shift their production from Japan to overseas.
Right. What about microchips? There's also a bit of a shortage there. What's the impact that's having?
Well, that was one of the biggest reasons that all those Japanese companies had to cut back their production in the first quarter. Even though, again, the speed of the recovery seems to be a lot faster than originally expected. But again, going forward, many of those companies, not just for the microchip, but many other auto parts, many of those companies are now considering of either diversifying the supply source or maybe to outside Japan, which prompt, again, their shift to the overseas production, or maybe diversify among those different plants and different suppliers in Japan.
Understand very quickly, we've got Japanese manufacturers here, car manufacturers, losing market share to American, European and South Korean rivals there in the United States. Is it more, we can't blame it all on the earthquake, is it more to it than that?
Well, again, Japanese seems to be losing their competitive edge because of the yen, and then at the same time, this earthquake gave another headache to those Japanese. I think Japanese market share should start recovering, even though I doubt if they can ever recover the same market share that they used to enjoy before the earthquake.